So you know the Einstein story, right? You cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created it. That's fairly popular now. The problem is, I believe, that the mind that created the need for sustainability, you know what that means? The one who didn't care, the one who was selfish, the one who did what they wanted, who wasted what they wanted, took what we wanted, that mind that created divisions, broke things up, and acted as though what I do doesn't impact you, what you do doesn't impact me, every man for himself, let's just create separateness, is the same mind we're using to try and solve the problem. So here's my visual of what that looks like. The primary mind that we're still using is the problem-solving mind, the mind that breaks things up to look at the pieces and work on solving them in an attempt to arrest disorder. I have to tell you how I came to understand this picture, because it's a fun personal story. I was blessed in my household with children who, instead of bringing home lost dogs and cats, brought home lost children. Now, what I mean by that is several of their friends lived in households where it didn't work real well with their parents. Some of you may have had that problem. In high school, suddenly about the age of 14, your view of the world and the view of your parents' world becomes very different. And in some cases, those were so severe that the kids were running away from home or they were being thrown out of home. And my children, who just loved taking care of people, would bring them home to our house. We had, at one time, 4 to 5 14-year-olds living with us, rearranging the house to give them a place to live. One of those young women had had a pretty traumatic upbringing, and she was, at this point of her life, the age of 14, had decided she would get pregnant. That makes sense at the age of 14, right? And the reason is because she felt like that if she could have a baby, she'd be sure someone loved her. Now, there's not much sanity in that, but for her, it was a totally logical choice. And she had a boyfriend who didn't know anything about this, but was fully actively involved in helping it happen, right? When she came to live with us, I tried all sorts of things. I had all these ideas. I'll take her to Planned Parenthood, and they'll educate her, about what it means to raise children. They even had a program that you could put them in. They would take care of babies round the clock for 3 or 4 days, and most of them, that stopped that idea. Because you got no sleep, not much fun. So I thought, we'll put her in there. That'll do that. No. Now she really felt love. Somebody depended on her. What an amazing thing. So I thought, there's got to be some other really important way to do this. I suddenly overnight heard her having a conversation with my daughter, who was 2 years younger than her, and asking her why she was so upset with her parents who had thrown her out. And she said, well, my grandmother took away my cello and told me that I don't deserve to touch this family instrument. Now, what does that have to do with trying to get pregnant, right? But I thought about it for a minute, and I thought, my goodness, what's really going on here is this child, 14, she's still a child, is not able to express who she is. She's not able to express the essence of who she is in the world. So I found out, I was living in Palo Alto, California at the time. I called the local symphony, said, yep, they have a junior symphony. Yep, you can try out. We rented her a cello, took her down, she became second chair, and she quit trying to get pregnant. Now, the reason is because we were working up here above this line on the regenerative process. We were working trying to understand something that at its core could move something higher. That process of the middle line is the line that we mostly try and live in life. We try and live with a sustainability idea of sustaining them being acceptable to society. So everybody wanted her to be acceptable to society. So now I am using that same understanding. I was working on problem solving with her. I was trying to arrest disorder. And I understood later, it took me about 4 months to get it, that what I had to work on was creating a higher order that was something more life-giving for her. Now, I believe that applies to businesses too. So let's take our problem-solving mindset, which is the one below the line, where we're trying to arrest disorder. And it's shaped by, how many of you study systems thinking? Any of you? Okay, Jason, several of you, systems dynamics, other classes, right? Okay. The problem-solving mind is pretty much the upside-down version of systems thinking. Sir Francis Bacon had this great idea. He said, you know, if I look at how the world works, it looks like a big clock to me. It's a mechanism. And after that, henceforth, for all the, 250 years since he lived, we have seen everything as a mechanism, and we have taken it and put it into pieces. I want to show you an example of what happens with the mind who takes things into pieces. This is a picture of a beautiful river. This picture was taken 25 years ago, I believe. At that time, this river meandered through, but it was seen by the people who were nearby as very inefficient, unpredictable, you know, way too much poor use of land, and they decided with their mind, that was the problem-solving mind, we could fix that. We could straighten out that river. And then we could have better use of the land. We could do farming in a much easier way. Tractors could get along the edge of it. And so they moved to this river. Now this is the river. It's a pretty straight line. But as you can see, that river is incredibly polluted. They transformed this 103-mile meandering river into a 56-mile river, which is now a ditch. It's surrounded by polluted water, stagnant pools, because the problem-solving mind wanted to fix something based on an objective that individuals had without a look at the whole system. So before, they had a beautiful wildlife haven. They had natural filtration that was able to be used from that river. And then what they had is no wildlife, water quality which made impossible to use, and the lake is so polluted that they now have, I've forgotten how much they're spending, maybe I put that in here, $500 million, to over $1 billion to try and restore that river. So that's what the problem-solving mind does. It orients itself toward something that seemed like a good idea. A straight river seems like a good idea. Let's get it going in a straight line. So we have a theoretical ideal. They focus on the efficiency and being predictable. They use quantitative measures. They wanted X amount of land available, and then they isolate it and work on preventing any variances from taking place. That's the mind we usually use. This is the first half. We have to do this kind of work. Let's go to it. Just hold on to that for a minute, and